MLS Heineken Rivalry Week rolls on with a doubleheader tonight. Atlanta United take on Orlando City at 8 p.m. Eastern. Then it's a Cascadia Cup matchup between the Timbers and Sounders at Providence Park. Both games are on ESPN, ESPN Deportes, and the ESPN app. Kenny Stills was publicly critical of Jay-Z's partnership with the NFL. On Monday, he shared he felt Jay-Z could have handled it better and that he could have reached out to Cap or to Kenny. He didn't like Jay-Z's comment that we're past kneeling, and he pointed out this guy's never taken a knee. And overall, he felt that Jay's commentary was uninformed. The very following day after Stills' comments, Jay-Z's music was played during practice, blaring out of the speakers for 8 straight songs. A deliberate move made by Dolphins head coach Brian Flores. Yesterday, Flores explained his reasoning behind the music choice.
It was a challenge to Kenny to perform regardless of whatever's going on outside. And, I would say, I've said this to him, he hasn't performed up to that level over the course of this training camp as I've seen him. So that was the challenge, to get open, catch the football, and make plays for this team, regardless of what's going on outside of this building.
Stephen A., do you have a problem with Coach Flores playing Jay-Z's music at practice?
Not at all. And not only because I completely agree with him, but I totally relate to what he's talking about. One of the things that's been transpiring since this whole Jay-Z fiasco over his partnership with the NFL has taken on a life of its own is that we've got folks, that are supportive of the kneeling, supportive of Colin Kaepernick, gung-ho about questioning the blackness and the authenticity of other people. Now, I would tell them to go kick rocks. I would assure you that if I wasn't on FCC airwaves, my response to that nonsense would be quite more incendiary, and I wouldn't give a damn. I'm not Brian Flores. He's far more kinder than me. And I think that when you look at Kenny Stills, here's what we have to understand about Kenny Stills, the Colin Kaepernicks, the Eric Reeds of the world. Brian Flores is a black man. I mean, I know we say stuff, some folks are African-American or you're Caribbean-American. He's a black man. I'm a black man, okay? There is no black man on this earth that should have a problem with Colin Kaepernick, Eric Reed, or Kenny Stills in terms of what they've done, their willingness to take a knee, to bring attention to racial oppression, racial inequality, police brutality, or brutality on the part of police or some police officers, as I like to say. There's no black man alive that should or I think would have a problem with that. But you also have to pay attention to folks who believe that there's also another way to go about addressing those issues and respect that as well. And when you look at a guy like Eric Reed or Kenny Stills tacitly or directly alluding to Jay-Z, selling out and saying derogatory things about him in that way, they should be ashamed of themselves. They really, really should, because it's going too damn far. Now, Kenny Stills, let's get to him directly because that's what we're talking about here as it pertains to Brian Flores. Kenny Stills is a 5th-round draft pick in the NFL, coming out of Oklahoma. Okay, he was drafted by the New Orleans Saints, if I remember correctly, in 2013. Kenny Stills has been a starter in the National Football League over the last 3 years. He's been in the league for 6 full seasons. He has never had a 1,000-yard season, ever. Now, that might be because Ryan Tannehill was your quarterback for all I know. Quite possible. Quite possible. I get all of that. But the reality is that you haven't had a 1,000-yard season since you have entered the NFL. And the reason why I love what Brian Flores did is Brian Flores specifically addressed the locker room. Told them he's lived it. He's been stopped by police. He's endured the stop and frisk nonsense that was going on in the streets of New York City for years. He grew up in Brooklyn, okay, even though his parents are not from the United States. He pointed out all of these things. So I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate what you're standing and kneeling for, and I applaud that. But guess what? Guess what, Kenny Stills? You got to produce. Doesn't that seem like Bill Belichick to you? That's like, all right, you go ahead and do what you got to do. But excuse me, your primary responsibility to this team is to go out there and get the job done. I haven't been impressed with what I've seen from you in preseason. This is Brian Flores, not me. This is the coach talking. I haven't been impressed with you and what I've seen this preseason. I haven't been impressed with you with what I've seen in practice. Now, you can make all the news you want about these issues, and they're going to benefit me, and they're going to benefit African Americans, they're going to benefit black people, not just in this nation, but possibly abroad, and we're going to appreciate that. But that ain't going to save your job. That's basically what he's saying. That's not going to save you from the wrath that will come your way directly from my hand if you ain't catching passes, if you ain't running routes, if you ain't doing what you're supposed to do. So all of these back pages that you're creating for yourself because of this issue, while I applaud it and I have no doubt that my community is going to benefit from your willingness and your courage in addressing these things, please make sure you understand you have a job to do, Kenny Stills. And according to my eyes, meaning Brian Flores, my eyes, I'm not seeing you do it. The coach basically said that. And that's why I love what he did.
You know how you look at Brian Flores and you go, okay, his parents are Afro-Caribbean and he grew up in, I don't know what he called. I know that's a black dude. Like I saw him.
Black dude.
Okay.
The black man.
I look at Coach and I go, is he BSing or is he? No, that's a dude who's just telling you what it was.
And by the way, with a quick interruption. I don't know if everybody realizes this, but a white person from South Africa who becomes an American citizen could also be, also be considered an African American if you really think about it. No, he's a black man. There's a difference, a distinction.
Look. I look at him and I go, is Coach shooting us straight or not? Is that really the reason he played Jay? Yeah. Obviously, he's trying to. Coaches use all kinds of motivational techniques to prod, to make you angry, to make you prove something to them. And it looks like that's what Coach was doing. And Jay's been making great music for 20 plus years. He's lucky it was only 8 Jay-Z songs. It could have been a lot more. By the way, did you hear where Kenny Stills plays Nas? And I think that's good. That's a good way to come back. Look. This idea that, and you made the comment earlier, you said something like no black person could disagree with what did you say?
I said you're not going to have a black person that doesn't appreciate what Colin Kaepernick, Eric Reed, and Kenny Stills have kneeled.
I think the way this is framed is unfair to black people, to African American, or however, whatever you want, people of color, because it treats a diverse population as one group with one mind. But in fact, what we see happening is a dialectic. We see, and not just between two different ideas, but about a bunch of different ideas about things. And this was true in the civil rights movement, too. Yeah. There were various civil rights groups, mostly African American, who had bitter disputes during civil rights because it's not
the way things should be done. Yeah.
Right. That is not a sign that a group is divided and therefore it's a sign of some kind of unhealthy condition. In fact, it could be a sign of a very healthy condition, and especially when you're dealing with good faith actors. When you're dealing with people who are not simply who are not bad faith actors, who have some hidden agenda. Coach was very clear that he supported Kenny Stills' ideals. At the same time, he said, the man's not playing well. So, you don't like how it is? Do something about it with your play on the field. Right. That's fine.
Just to play devil's advocate here, I mean, is it possible that Coach Flores could have just taken a different route to delivering this message? That the way he did it was perhaps insensitive? And maybe the fact that he is black actually is working in his favor, because if a white coach did that, we would certainly say that he was missing the bigger issue.
All right, well, let me tell you this.
Could he do it in a better way?
First of all, that's a great question. Here's an even better answer.
Go ahead, Stephen A.
He shouldn't give a damn. He shouldn't give a damn. Not about your question, not about my response, not about anybody. You know why? Because we're talking about the Miami Dolphins. What the hell have you done? What the hell have you done? Try something. What have you done? When have the Miami Dolphins been relevant? The last time we saw them in the postseason, they were getting shellacked by the Pittsburgh Steelers, okay? Let's understand something here. The Dolphins haven't done enough winning for us to be choosy about the method. And let's take into account. I'm going to read the quote that Brian Flores said about Kenny Stills. It was a challenge to Kenny to perform regardless of whatever is going on outside. I would say, and I said this to him, he has not performed up to that level over the course of training camp or as I've seen. So that was the challenge, to get open, catch the football, and make plays for this team regardless of what's going on outside this building. I'm sorry. I don't know how much more clear you can be than that. Yo, bro. All of this noise, because this is what it makes me think about. I know that Eric Reed can play, But when I'm watching Eric Reed take the positions that he's taking against everybody else, when you don't challenge Malcolm Jenkins on the football field, okay, because you were upset at his position, you know, in terms of accusing him of co-opting the movement by getting the Players Coalition to make a deal with the National Football League, I'm also thinking, are you the player that Malcolm Jenkins is? I don't know the answer to that question. I'm just being rhetorical. When I'm seeing a Colin Kaepernick and taking his position, I'm also thinking about 3-16 in his last 19 starts and 1-10 specifically, although Chip Kelly was his coach, so he's to be forgiven because Chip Kelly can contaminate anything. And then we have this situation with Kenny Stills. Well, you've been in the league for 6 years. And in 6 years' time, you never have 1,000 yards a season. I know you can play. Kenny Stills is not a scrub. But what Brian Flores is saying is you need to perform. And, oh, by the way, who is Brian Flores? Where did he come from? Not only the New England Patriots, but they're in the same division as you, and they've been spanking your butt for years. And by the way, step up and get it done. I have no problem with that.
I want to answer Roz's question. I want to answer your question, Roz. The answer as to could a white coach get away with the same thing without explaining himself more is no. And for those who would say, aha, it's reverse racism, it's a double standard, it's the most idiotic position one could take. Look, 400 years of systemic oppression means that if you're saying, well, you know, skin color is giving him cover to behave in a way that a white guy couldn't. Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. And anyone who really has a problem with that has issues that go beyond, you know, football.
And I appreciate that. And actually for me, and I think you don't even have to be a sports fan. When I heard about this issue, it struck a deep chord for me. I wouldn't have liked it if a white coach did this, and I don't really like it that a black coach did it. I think it helped me feel like, okay, but I don't mind him challenging his athlete to be better, but I don't like the method. What he did was he could have called him to the side and said, hey, let's watch video. Hey, let's work on plays. Hey, I want to challenge you. You're not playing well enough. You know what? But instead, he took an issue that is worldwide. This issue is, you don't even got to be a sports fan to understand that this
Jay's got a lot of good music,
people,
though,
and
Roz.
you know what I'm saying? But people are really, it strikes a nerve with people, and you've belittled it. You've confronted it and made it a football issue, which is this small to that. That's just how I feel. You can see it. Thank you. Thank you, Max.
You're wrong. I say so respectfully.
Speak to me.
Let me tell you why you're wrong. I have watched you do an exceptional job covering sports, and in particular the NBA, for years. We constantly have been confronted by situations that we may not necessarily like, and we let that bad boy go. The second the results appear to be something that has exceeded expectations. We are looking at a Miami Dolphins squad that's tried every other way. Don't get it done. We have a coach who's from Brooklyn, who sat up there and looks at a guy right now who he believes is underproducing, underachieving, and what he is saying is, excuse me, I'm going to push your buttons. You're saying to me, you don't like it. And I'm saying to you, part of the problem with the Miami Dolphins and most teams in the NFL may be the fact that we're paying attention to what the hell players like instead of who gets it done. That's the point.
No, I think
what
you're responding to, if I may, I think what you're responding to is the power dynamic. Like, this is a big, important issue. It's an emotional issue, and it has social and, like, global significance. And here, coach is trivializing it. And not only that, but there's a power imbalance because he's coach. He's saying, this is the way it is. This is what the powers that be say. And now you have to deal with it tough, right? On the one hand, that's true. And this ties into the other point. If he were a white coach, could he do it? But Brian Flores is saying, in fact, my experience privileges me to use this in this way, in a way maybe someone else couldn't.
Okay.
Now, again, I think Roz clearly got that. It's whether or not she likes it or not. And I'm saying when you're
have to like it.
And I'm saying when you're in that position, the Miami Dolphins, your history. I mean, when you ain't winning and you ain't getting the job done, excuse me, I have the license and the latitude to engage in any mechanism I damn well choose at that particular moment in time to get the desired result.
But Roz is saying here, you just don't like the way it feels, period.
You don't like the way it feels. And I'm saying, I hope he didn't like it. I hope he was uncomfortable. It doesn't bother me at all because people who don't get the job done don't need to be comfortable.
Does it make you feel better that he went back at him with Nas?
I think that was clever, and I also think he had the space to do that.
It didn't work.
It happened in his locker room, in his space that he belongs in. I mean, Coach did this blaring during practice for everyone to hear. It was a public embarrassment, even if you want to go that far. I mean, we're probably making it a bigger deal than it is. I just think coaches need to bring the best out of their players, and that may differ from player to player. The best coaches can do that, and method matters.
And Brian Flores I'm saying to you, Brian Flores may be better than most. We don't know that yet because he's a first-time coach. But Mike Tomlin might have tried things that was a bit unorthodox.
But in your
Pittsburgh.
experience,
But guess what?
which you competed, you're saying that method you feel doesn't yield the results even that you is that
I feel he had a chance to relate with his young player and say, hey, we're from the same space. I know exactly what you're fighting for. I agree with you. I'm with you. And bring them together, as opposed to belittling him and putting him in a position where he now has to publicly explain how he feels about Coach playing 8 back-to-back to back-to-back to back-to-back.
But here's the problem with that,
Jay-Z
Roz.
songs. In fact, it feels petty. Feels petty.
Roz,
It feels petty.
Here's what I believe you're missing. Based on what you're saying, Brian Flores is here, and so is Kenny Stills. No. What I'm saying to you is, no, Brian Flores is here.
No, I think that's the point.
And I'm saying he is here.
Right.
Kenny Stills, you need to be relevant enough to even show up in the picture.
Yeah, but again, I don't mean to speak for you, but it seems to me that the point is the fact that coach is here and the player is here makes it unfair to play the 8 songs in a row and trivialize the subject and kind of.
He didn't trivialize it.
That's the argument.
I agree with you.
Right? And the power imbalance, because what is this really all about in the first place? The protest is about a power imbalance. And so now the powers that be make a decision and say, stay in your place in a way, and now you're forced to do it. And the coach, who is also a black man, as you say, is part of that power structure, sticking it to her. That's what she feels.
And where I believe, Max, you're missing it, is that based on that analogy that you just made, it would be totally appropriate if the coach was taking that position because Kenny Stills was speaking about what he was kneeling about. No, this is Kenny Stills electing to take time out to attack Jay-Z, who's Brian Flores' homeboy. I'm not talking about he knows him, but from the same area pretty much. And then as a result of that, he said, excuse me, you got different priorities. Here's where they lie. Handle it. Because I'm sorry to say this. I think I'm being a bit presumptuous here. I don't think anybody doubts that Jay-Z's handled his business.
Right, but then
Has
why?
Kenny Stills?
But then why?
No.
All
right, guys, we gotta go. We appreciate the passion though on both sides of this. All right.
More passion.
I think a nation's passion. We're all talking about it. All right. What should star running back Ezekiel Elliott do with the Cowboys' latest offer? These guys have differing opinions, and we will debate it coming up.